Welcome back to another episode of Magna Carta Radio Show. I'm your host, Mustafa and here with me today is my amazing co-host,
Martin O'Brien.
Today we're going to be diving into a topic that many of you have probably thought about at some point. Is law school the right choice for you? If you're on the fence about whether law school is the next step, or just curious about what it's really like, this episode is for you.
Yeah, I think for everybody, we come to a point in our lives where we wonder what is next in our career for us, or is this potentially a career choice that we want to make? Why don't you start us off and tell us what led you to come to law school to begin with?
Yeah, for sure. So a little background about me. I did my undergraduate studies at the University of Toronto, Mississauga, majoring in criminology. And essentially what drove me to the law was, I think everyone can relate to this, the first point of seeing lawyers was in suits. And I saw that and I was like, okay, this is a really, really cool profession and something I've never seen of. But the second element was how the law transforms people's lives and how it can be used as a tool to help individuals. And in my undergraduate studies, I had the opportunity to volunteer at a legal clinic where I learned a lot about what lawyers do in the real setting. And it was really fulfilling to see the work that they do to help many clients, and with their clients were specifically tenants who were facing issues, housing issues. So seeing how they were able to resolve those issues was really meaningful, and it's something that inspired me to pursue law. I'd love to hear, what's your story, Brian? What made you get here?
So it all kind of started from when I was a kid. My grandfather was a tax lawyer in Toronto. He practiced for about 35 years, and as long as I knew him, he would tell me that one day I was going to do the same thing. I was just going to be a lawyer, and for years I denied it. At some point I even thought I was going to be an engineer. Then I realized physics is awful. No to the sciences. I ended up doing my undergrad at Toronto Metropolitan University in business commerce. After the first year, they make you choose a specialty, and that specialty for me ended up being law. I ended up taking a lot of business and law related courses that has translated into a lot of the work that I'm doing now here at the University of Windsor. Graduated in 2021. Attempted for 3 out of 4 years after that to get into law school. There was no success in that up until this past year. But I had also worked at both an immigration firm in the GTA and then a commercial leasing firm in Toronto that gave me a chance to kind of see the more practical side of the law. And now I'm here.
That is quite the story. So Martin, you said that at the start you were sort of unsure. What was that turning point where you were like, no, I never want to do law? And then that turning point where you're like, oh, I can actually see myself doing this.
Realistically, it came down to seeing the work. I had been presented with this glitzy lifestyle of what a lawyer is to be, and I was never actually shown what they do, what kind of work they're doing, what goes into being a lawyer. It was always just seen as this high-end profession in which people want to be, and they don't think twice about it. But now, having worked with lawyers, spending time as a law clerk, and now here at school, this is truly the only thing I could see myself doing in life. And what about yourself?
So for me, it was really taking it from a place of, okay, this is serious work and I can see myself doing this. And it wasn't just something that you see on TVs. And it was realizing that, no, there's a lot of potential in this. So I think that's what changed it for me. But another thing that I picked up on while you were speaking, Martin, and that's really important, and I can relate to this myself, is that it takes time to get into law school. It personally took me 2 years. So for individuals who might be in a similar position, who are trying to get into law school but are not able to, what advice would you give them?
I think it all comes down to not giving up on yourself. Year after year after year of applying for law schools, writing the LSAT, being disappointed with yourself when you see those rejections come in every year. Don't take that as a sign of your own personal failure, especially if you're attempting to go kindergarten to JD. It's not out of the realm of possibility for you to go at any time in your life. In fact, the average age of a starting law student is 27 years old. I think that's some good insight for yourself if you're wondering if you have the chops to make it.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can relate to this as well, Martin. A lot of our classmates they're not the regular 21, 22-year-olds. You'll meet various different people from different ages and different backgrounds in law school. It's not something that's just for individuals who, as Martin said, are coming from kindergarten straight to JD. I would actually say that's extremely rare.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting seeing an older crowd, not necessarily older, but older than myself in the law school, also going through the same things that we are. They offer a good sense of insight and a bit more perspective, just because they've had careers and lives beyond this, that I think is more valuable to us than people put out there to begin with.
100%, I completely agree. So, as we're both students of Windsor Law, what would you say helped you make your decision towards Windsor as opposed to other schools in Ontario or in Canada?
So, when I accepted Windsor Law, I had 3 offers on the table. I had my acceptance from Windsor, I had one from TMU, and finally from Queen's. Now, in terms of the 3 schools, I had gotten the Windsor acceptance, and that was the first one that came in. The firm that I worked for in Toronto was a majority Windsor Law graduate firm. They could only sing praises about this school and all of the wonderful things that would come out of it by me going there. I had to jump at the opportunity. I couldn't wait a single day more. And I remember when I accepted, I was on a trip at the time in Europe. And I thought now is better than never. So I got it out of the way, and now I'm here almost 1 year in. And what about yourself? What led to the decision?
So I would say for me it was like yourself, it was speaking to alumni of the school. When I first received my Windsor acceptance, Windsor was the first school that I was accepted into. So what I did was I looked on LinkedIn and I tried to find individuals who had graduated from Windsor or who were at Windsor, just to hear what their experience was like. And speaking to them, and they told me about the wonderful community that's at Windsor and the opportunities for student clubs and for other externships that are available at Windsor. That's what drew me to Windsor. I was in the boat where I was on waitlisted, so rather than waiting, I chose to accept the short offer.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to go about it. And I mean, I was in the same boat. I remember, I think it was mid-April when I got my wait list, and finally May came, and I jumped for joy. I remember the partner I worked for ran out of his office when I came in and just grabbed me, gave me a hug.
Wow, that's amazing.
I think he was just sad that he was losing his assistant.
That's probably it.
But I think beyond discussing our journeys here, many are tuning in wondering, should they also follow in the footsteps and go to law school? And I think there's a few factors that should be considered before you jump into this. The first one, I think, is the finances that go into all of this. I don't know about you, but I am looking to come out of law school swimming in debt.
Same here, buddy. Exact same position here. And I honestly was not. This is a great point, because I was honestly not sure about truly how expensive law school is. I knew about the tuition part of it, but I don't think you realize all the other things as well. So when you do come out of law school, it's really, there's a lot of debt that's involved with it, and it's something you do have to take into consideration.
Would you be interested in taking a guess how much the average law student in Canada comes out debt-wise?
I want to say it's above 100K for sure.
You're definitely there. It's $130,000 on average.
Wow, that's insane. That's a down payment for a house.
Well, depends on where you live. But yeah, you got to consider the fact that you are going to be taking on a lot of debt coming into law school. Tuitions here at Windsor currently sit around $22,000 to $23,000 for domestic students, and that's only going to be going up in the next year or two. Beyond that, you're considering, if you're coming from out of town, which most people do for Windsor, you're going to be paying for rent, which based on people I've spoke to here, range anywhere between $600 to even $1,500 per month. You're paying for your food, you're paying for your books, and don't get me started on buying new books, because that's a whole other discussion. And it's just your day-to-day living. They offer you a line of credit, depending on which bank you're with, but it can only go so far, and you still have to pay that back at the end.
Yeah, 100%. These are all things that you need to consider. When it comes to law school, it's not just tuition. You have to also consider other things, like where you're going to be living, food, and all these other necessities, right? If you're driving, then gas. So there's a lot of considerations, and it really adds up, especially when you're living away from home.
Trust me, the gas adds up. I'm driving back and forth between the GTA and here every single weekend, and $50 in gas doesn't go the way that it used to.
I think many people in Windsor can relate to this. Even myself, my family is back in Mississauga, so I'm frequently traveling back and forth to see them, and very expensive.
It just won't stop, but this is what we signed up for. Windsor isn't necessarily the most traditional commuter school for some, but for the people here, it can be a way to have a bit of a lifeline back home and make sure that we stay sane while we're doing property readings.
And one thing to acknowledge is that with this high cost, you are also getting a quality education. And for me, this was my dream. So to be able to pursue my dream, but the downside is that it's extremely expensive, and this makes it extremely inaccessible for people who maybe can't even take loans. So that's something that does need to be addressed with this problem.
It is interesting. I remember a professor of mine from my undergrad. He would tell us, if you want to make money, don't be a lawyer. And I kind of get where he's coming from. The average salary for a lawyer in Canada hovers around $70,000 a year. We all have big law dreams. We all hope that we can be our own Harvey Specters and live on Bay Street and be a cool corporate partner who's raking in over 9 figures a year. It sounds lovely, but this is a reality that you'll need to face. And yes, I know it is a lot of cost for what may come across as a small payoff, but law is much more fulfilling than just the paycheck you're going to be getting at the end of the day.
Exactly, yeah. That's one thing to note, that although these big law jobs are extremely desirable. Yeah, these big law jobs are extremely desirable, but the competition is extremely fierce, and you have to also know where your talents lie. And also with big law, when you come to law school, you realize that not everyone's goal is big law, right? Other people who want to do more fulfilling lines of work, if they want to help the low income sides or marginalized communities, there's other areas than lines of law that people look into.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Big law is not the be-all, end-all of a legal career. Many people open up their own shops just to help their own community. It could be real estate law on the local level. You could be a great family lawyer. You could go to bat for people who need criminal defense. You could even be a small claims lawyer if you want. These are all potential options for you. It doesn't just stop at Bay Street. And to put something in more perspective, you mentioned it's very competitive to get onto Bay Street. Windsor Law this year, for its 1L recruit, is happy to promote the fact that we have placed the most amount of 1L students ever on Bay Street. That number is 5 students out of 200 of us. Now consider the fact that almost every other law school in Canada is looking to get onto Bay Street, especially because of the desirability of the income. It is an extremely competitive job market. And you know what? Even so, we will try, and those numbers will continue to grow as the school you choose to go to, or in this case, Windsor, continues to grow its reputation as one of the best law schools in Canada.
Exactly. Even if you look at the top law school in Canada, the University of Toronto, in 1L recruit, 5% of the students secure summer positions. So the chances are low. not just at Windsor, but across the board. The competition is extremely fierce.
But enough about our struggles in finding a job this summer.
Yeah. So one thing you mentioned is the cutthroat environment. This is something that is eminent throughout law schools, and what we should talk about is the reality of law school. So we've heard all the stories, 100-page readings, cutthroat competition, and the sinking feeling when you get your grades back. What has been your experience of 1L so far?
So I feel like I sit in a bit of a unique situation here. A lot of the textbooks that we're currently reading, I have either read before, either as part of the law clerk program at Seneca College or during my undergrad at TMU. A lot of this content is very rehashed in my mind, and I do find that I may be having a bit of an easier experience than most. That doesn't tend to say that this is an easy experience. Law school is not easy. I feel lucky that I'm in such a position, but I think I can boil it down to people walk up to me and say, "Why are you never stressed about anything?" One, because we're curved to a B- average. Two, I put in a sufficient amount of work every day to try and keep up on things just so that I'm not overwhelmed at the end of the week. But what about yourself? How are you finding this?
So I'm on I would say the polar opposite end, wherein I came to law school with very minimal education on the law and the source of the wording that's used in the statutes and the legislations and the case law. So this was very unfamiliar territory to me. So the first semester, it was just getting used to this, getting used to the 100-page readings. And yes, they are. Weekly, we do have to do more than 100 pages of reading. Nobody does them all, because that's impossible. So you pick and choose. But so it was like learning a new language. And I remember one of my professors said this to me, and it really stuck out to me. It is like learning a new language, and it was very different. But as you get used to things, it does start to get better, not easier, I will say. But the biggest thing for me has been finding like-minded individuals who I can work with and who we can balance each other out. So if there's weaknesses I have, it would be to understanding the law or understanding legislations. I would try to find someone like Martin who knows the law better or who understands legal wording better and try to learn off them, because we're not competing against each other to say it is also like a group game, right, where you have to sort of collectively help each other, and that helps.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's one of the largest misconceptions about law schools, that everyone thinks it's a bloodbath in here. To my Legally Blonde fans, no, we are not all competing for one position at the end of the summer that a professor has magically conjured up. Far from that. We are competing more or less against the professor's evil machinations of what constitutes an exam. And we're all going through this together. There are countless amounts of group chats going at all times. People want to help each other, and our own student society has even compiled some of the best condensed notes that you could find to help make this an easier transition than you would imagine.
That's one thing I think we can both really speak to about Windsor, is the community is extremely strong. So you feel extremely supported, not just by the students, but the faculty and the administration, and there's resources available. And when you do find yourself in a pickle, in a situation that everyone finds themselves in, there's supports available. And that's, I think, the best part about law school, that even though it does come with its challenges, it does come with a lot of hard work, there's a lot of supports that are available as well.
Oh, 100%. The clubs that I've been able to join this year both fit within my own identity and also interests that I have. And it's been amazing just being able to know that after school I may have somewhere to go that speaks to me and makes me feel like I'm not just drowning in work or sitting in my apartment just doing nothing while wasting a night away. It's a lot better than one would imagine, and I think anyone who's gone through this experience can attest the same.
Yeah, 100%. So one thing that's really important with balancing law school, it comes to taking care of your mental health. As this is a very mentally strenuous program, what are some things that you have been doing throughout the 1 year to take care of your mental health?
So one of the things that we mentioned earlier was driving back home back and forth every week. My family is a massive support system for me, as are my friends back home. And my attempt to rectify whatever stresses I may come across here is to spend time with them, to make sure that even though I may be 4 hours away from the place that I was born and raised in, I always know where the roots are, and I'm able to just walk away from everything that's caused me an issue this week and say, you know what, that lecture was tough, but you know what, it's okay. I have who I need here, and I'm good. And then I come back and start the process all over again. And you?
Exactly, yeah. I think that's a very important point. Family. I think a lot of people who are at Windsor, it is sad that they have to live away from their families. So being able to see your family has always been something that's bettered my mood. It makes me happier. So being able to go back whenever I can, it's an amazing feeling. But I would say on the day-to-day, I just try to keep in contact with friends, even if they are thousands of miles away. I have my family, as a lot of them are back home in Pakistan, so I try to call with them at least once a day, try to talk to my grandmother. And I feel like those small things, even though if it's just a 5 or 10 minute phone call, it really, really helps. So we're just talking about each other's day. So I think just try these small things, right? That's what really helps. Like every day after class, I'll call my mom. So it's just these small things. And that's what's really helped me, living alone and balancing all of these things.
Yeah, it's a massive change. Like I know the feeling of calling moms. My mom, I think she has my schedule down to a T at this point. 3:55 every single day after class, or sometimes even during class. It just shows up on my phone. I'm like, okay, well, it's time for her. Sorry, Professor Chapdelaine. Like, things come up.
It's the exact same here.
Right now, we're going to take a quick break, so sit back and listen to some PSAs from 99.1 CJAM.
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back to another episode of Magna Carta Radio Show. We just went into the break discussing the mental health aspects that come alongside law school. But I think now would be a good time for us to launch into more of the how to pick your school as a law school applicant and goer. So what were deciding factors for you one school over another?
So one of the big things that mattered to me was definitely community. So the community that was at the school. The second one was employment opportunities. So I think a lot of people look into this. What students who are at the school that you want to get into, where are they summering, where are they articling, where are they working 5-10 years down the line. So that was one thing. Another thing was proximity to home. So as I said, I'm from Mississauga, so I definitely did want something that was closer to home. It makes the process a lot easier. But for me, the main thing was employability and then community, because I knew that if there's a stronger community, it would just make it a lot easier for me to adjust to a new environment, make friends, and things like that. But I think mainly a lot of people consider prestige. That was something I tried to put on the back of my mind, even though of course it is on everybody's mind, but I tried to consider other factors that appealed me to the school. What about you, Martin? What were some things that you looked at?
Well, thing is more so my LSAT score than anything that determined where I went. Took it 4 times and somehow got the same score 4 times. Yay me. No, but realistically, I was looking everywhere in Ontario. I compared based on what my future prospects had in store. Windsor in specific, very much geared towards government work down the line, and something like that screams high potential for me. I think working in government gives me a lot of opportunities to do something that isn't big law related, while also having an impact on potentially Canadian society as a whole, or even just with people on a day-to-day basis. Other schools like TMU were somewhat interesting to me just as a new school with a technology and IP focus, but that does not necessarily ring true for everybody, and especially the law society itself.
Yeah, so Martin, you were talking... Do you want to get into that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Martin, you were talking to us... we were talking right before the podcast about something the students of TMU, graduates of TMU, reached out to the Law Society. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, so their first cohort graduated not too long ago. And something to know for potential applicants to TMU is that they practice something called the Law Practice Program. This is a opportunity whilst you're in law school in order to work at a law firm and work towards getting that experience that you would otherwise not have. Now, typically in most law school experiences, anywhere else other than TMU, you will have something called articling, in which you will work for 10 months for a firm and write articles that eventually will allow you to be done that requirement to join the Ontario Bar. Now, at the end of this, the students from the first graduated cohort were unable to find any work whatsoever because they don't do articling. They eventually wrote a complaint to the Bar Association of Ontario complaining about their prospects, but this also came kind of full circle because when TMU was looking to open the school around 2021, the Law Society mentioned that jobs would be hard and scarce to find for their graduates because of this law practice program.
I think this is not just a issue that TMU law school students face, but I think across the board in Ontario and Canada, I think we can all relate, especially when we're in first year. There's a very, very slim window as well as opportunities that are available. A lot of the big law firms don't hire 1L students. If they do, there's very, very few positions. So across the board, this is an issue of scarcity of jobs and opportunities, not just for and it makes it even harder for TMU, who is an up-and-coming law school.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a thing. There is a level of prestige that will be in consideration when you're picking a law school. Of course, schools like Osgoode, U Calgary, even U of T, UVic, and what is that one?
UBC?
Yes, that's correct. All of those schools, they will get large priority on the big firms on student recruitment because of the history that they've had, as well as the ability for them to have those long-term connections with the firms. Obviously, you may consider yourself at somewhat of a disadvantage if you go to a school like Windsor or TMU or Western or Queen's, but that really shouldn't be a be-all, end-all factor in your school choice.
Yeah. So if someone who is in a similar position right now, what resources, if someone who's trying to figure out, okay, what law school should I maybe apply to or attend, what resources would you recommend that they should look into to try to help them make that decision?
So there's a few for sure. If you're looking for something that would be easiest to get a concept from all schools, you could always reach out to the school's registrar. They will offer you any sort of documentation or any sort of school pamphlet that you may want to get an idea of what the school's all about. Beyond that, you're also welcome to just reach out to school alumnus, or even just go on to somewhere like Reddit. Go to the law student subreddit and you can always ask. People are always happy to talk about where they came from, where they went to school, because that's what it's all about. We're there to support you as a prospective student.
Exactly. There's also the CanLaw forum that a lot of law students use, or potential law students. And you have two Windsor students right here. So if anyone is considering Windsor, please feel free to reach out to us with any questions you have about the school, the community, or anything about the law in general.
I would highly recommend that. When I got into Windsor here, the partner that I worked for, she connected me with a 2L here at the school who gave me a rundown of what to expect. And we're going to be here for a while, so feel free to reach out.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the best things that I did, just as Martin said, was reach out to someone who was already at the school. And they told me everything that I needed to do. Orientation, how to take notes, cans. That was the first time I heard it, condensed annotated notes. But learning about it before coming into law school did help a little bit.
Not to go on a bit of a tangent, but cans are just notes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, people make it seem like it's a very streamlined process. It's just notes.
Yeah, cans are just a combination of all your notes. They make it seem very, very complex, but it's not. It's just all your notes that you have in one big document.
Yes, and watch out for classes that make you print your cans.
That's the worst. That's a tree per person.
Well, if you've ever worked at a law firm, you'll know we're killing more than just one tree a day.
Yep, it's a lot of trees.
Yeah, I remember printing out 100+ page documents just because of one singular edit. Great stuff. But I think it all comes down to with your school choice. Where do you see yourself going? Every school is going to cater to its local market the best. In this case, in Windsor, you're going to have law firms in Windsor and companies in Windsor banging down the door for our services in the future. The same could be said with the GTA schools, that being Osgoode, U of T, and even potentially TMU one day as their reputation grows. They are going to have that better access to Bay Street. Realistically, you want to take all these things into consideration and just know that regardless of where you go, you're going to be getting a very good legal education. You wouldn't be paying this much in tuition if you weren't. On top of that, all of this is just prep for your future job. No one's going to know and no one's going to think about where you went to law school 5 years down the line. I don't think it will even be a matter once you start working.
Yeah, 100%. So one of the things that you mentioned that I can really relate to is the values part of it. How you said that Windsor aligned with your values when it came to future in government. So as we see that law school is law in general is a very valued driven profession. How do you figure out if the law school aligns with your personal values? What are some things that helped you figure this out?
So one of the main things to me was finding a school, like as you said, aligns with my values. What does that really come down to? I wanted somewhere that was going to allow me to be myself and not have to act like some big time shark just to get by. I'm not looking to be pretentious. This school does not give off that vibe whatsoever. On top of that, being very accepting of all different types of people, no matter where you've come from in life, is a big goal to me. Windsor, I believe, and I remember this from orientation, is one of the most diverse schools, if not the most diverse law school in Canada. I love that. I want different perspectives. I don't think I could be surrounded by the same type of person day in and day out, offering the same viewpoints on everything in life. I think that would be a detriment to both me as a person and as a lawyer.
100%, I completely second that. One of the most, I would say, fun and engaging part of law school has been meeting so many diverse people with different backgrounds and different areas of study or ethnicity, and everyone coming together, and everyone comes with a different perspective on the law and on the issues that relate to the law. So you get to learn so much more in a tight-knit community, and you get to collaborate with each other on the issues that matter most.
Absolutely, and that's been one of the best things. Is a lot of our group work, we're not really able to be picking and choosing who we're working with, which is giving us a broader range of perspectives coming into all of this. I know specifically with something like ILO, I was working with people I don't even think I talked to before, which is surprising considering we're a school of 200. But even so, just getting to see how they work and them reacting to how I work, let us all kind of learn something, grow from that experience. I don't think I'd be getting that anywhere else.
Yeah, 100%. ILO, for those wondering, is Indigenous Legal Orders. Anyone who missed that?
Yes, that is a lovely class that we must take, and any law student in Canada will have to take it as part of the Truth and Reconciliation Council's recommendation to the Canadian government.
Yes.
What I think it comes down to, though, with law school is, what are you looking to get out of it? In most cases, it's a career. Like we've been talking about on end, big law is typically the dream for everybody who comes into law school. Mostly because everyone's wowed at how much money you're going to be making, but many people aren't really considering the amount of hours you're going to be working. I hope everyone's okay with 80-hour work weeks that you're not getting paid overtime for. On top of that, you need to consider that many people in big law don't last very long. You're looking at 3 to 5 years max.
Yeah, 100%. So a lot of the things that people don't consider is that there's alternate career paths that many lawyers or law students can take. So when it comes to choosing a career path, Big Law isn't the only place that you can apply for or you can end up. There's so many various options such as policy or government work, legal tech and innovation, artificial intelligence, and with new things coming up every single day with technology, there's new areas of law that are developed, as well as compliance and risk management. Are there any other areas that maybe I'm forgetting that you can think of that law students can potentially pursue?
Yeah, of course. One of the big things that people concern themselves with after law school is the bar exam. Now, obviously, in Ontario, you need to pass both the barrister and solicitor exams in order to be a practicing barrister and solicitor. We don't do the whole attorney lawyer thing here. It's barrister solicitor. The bar exam you're able to take 3 times in your entire life. If you fail them all 3 times, don't worry about it. There are still career paths that your JD can take you down on. You can work as a consultant for a company, a legal consultant in this case, or even something like a sports agent or an entertainment agent, or even just something like a legal liaison between businesses. As long as you are not representing clients either as a lawyer or in court, you are able to do these things without passing the bar exam. Your JD still has value without it, so don't worry yourself. The bar exam may seem scary, but also remember, there's a 95% pass rate in Ontario.
Wow, that's very high. So with all that we've talked about, what is one area of law that sticks out to you? As in, I know we're all both in first year, so we're still exploring different areas. And you said you've worked in immigration in the past. What's something that sticks out to you?
So, personally, I don't think I would be going back to immigration law. That is a very cutthroat business. Finding clientele to begin with is one of the most cost-sinking ways for a firm to go down. The sole practitioner that I was with was running himself ragged trying to find new people and new clients to help bring into this country. More likely I'll find myself in commercial real estate or real estate of some sort, just because having now worked as an assistant and law clerk in that field, I know it very well. I love contracts. I also never want to be in a court. I have moot court next week, and I think that's the last time I'll ever plan on being in court. For contracts, dealing with negotiations in that sense, I love that. That is where I think I could do best. Client-centric work without having to go to court. What in yourself? What do you think?
That's amazing. For myself, I think when I started law school, I was definitely on the more more common route in law school, which is corporate law, which you find that most people want to get into. But I think I'm trying to keep it open. There's a lot of things that I never even thought of, such as recently in the first semester I went into an open house for an employment law firm in Toronto, and employment law was not even a thing I ever considered or thought about. But looking into the kind of work that they do, and like you said, client-centric work, and the advocacy that they have to do for their clients, and the issues that they face, and the real world aspect of it was something that really infatuated with me and really interested in me. So one thing I told myself was to keep it open, explore different areas, find what sticks to you, and find what you like best, not just what the crowd is doing or where the money is at or where the prestige is at, but really try to find something that you find fulfilling. And one of the things that I found when I interned at a law firm, at a legal clinic in my undergrad, was that when you're passionate about something, work almost doesn't feel like work. And I think that's my goal, to try to find some element of the law or a workplace that I'm passionate about, where I get to do what I love, and you also make money.
I recommend you don't take income taxation next year then. Mostly because I don't think you want to be bored with what my family has to say on income tax.
I'll stay away from it.
But I think with all this, passion is absolutely the way to go when it comes to this career. If you can't find passion in the law, you probably weren't meant to be in this path. And that's the reality of it. A lot of people do face burnout and there's a lot of attrition in this career. I see 200 people in just 1L at this moment, and the reality of it is that maybe 60 to 70 of them at most will survive in this career after 2030, let's say, even 2033. It's just it's not built for many people to last if they don't have the passion. And a lot of people go into this just thinking it's a money maker.
Yeah, 100%. There's two sides to that. The good thing about the law is that it is very broad, so there's a lot of opportunities. But it's okay if you don't enjoy the law. If your goal was to help people and that's why you chose the law, there's so many different professions where you can do that. Lawyers aren't the only ones who are change makers. There's so many professions. The world is so broad. So if law isn't the right path for you, I know 100% you will figure out what ignites a fire within you, because it's not the law for everybody. I know I have friends who hate the law and who are like, Mustafa, please stop talking about this. I can't stand it. So there's different things for everybody, and just trust the process.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you can do what you set out to do if it's truly what you're planning on. Don't let anyone discourage you from the process. Don't let years of rejections discourage you from the process, and don't let the costs discourage you from the process. I know it can be intimidating when you're paying $1,100, $1,200 per year to apply to law school. Then you're paying $300 to $400 per LSAT. Then you're paying for tutoring, or you're paying for a service. It's a lot, but it's worth it if you want it. We wanted this.
Yes, 100%. Don't let anyone tell you that this is unattainable, or that this is, there's a specific type of, no, it's all false. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do this. Don't let rejection stop you from doing this. If you know this is what you want, persevere, and you have to do what you have to do. So as we're closing off, if there is somebody listening right now who is thinking about going to law school, what would be some tips that we could give them?
Talk to upper year students. They have textbooks for sale. You will save so much money buying used textbooks. Also, they've likely highlighted through those textbooks, so you'll know exactly what's relevant to study off the jump. On top of that, make sure you use your money effectively. If you're somebody like me who's effectively living off of a line of credit this entire year, learn how to budget your money. Do not blow it all on things that you think you may need or on eating out. You need that money, and at some point you're going to have to pay it back. I know it seems all nice that there's no interest on it until you're done school. You have to pay it back one day. And just be attentive and come to class. I've had many friends who are lawyers tell me to stop coming to class after first semester. No, I think there's a lot of value in actually coming, even if you're just sitting there and doing nothing else. At least you're there.
Yeah, I agree. And if anything, you get to see your friends, talk to your friends, and you get to get out of the house, and that's important too.
What's your advice?
So I would say try not to fall behind. That's something that I find myself struggling with all the time. Even though I'm in second semester now, it's falling behind. So trying to stay on top of it as much as I can, with life getting in the way and clubs get in the way. So you try to stay on top as much as you can. I think study groups can be helpful, but with the caveat that you're actually studying and it's not just socializing and having fun. But the good thing with study groups is that you can sort of compartmentalize and divide up the work, so not one person feels overwhelmed, and you can also teach each other, which is extremely helpful. So not only learn the material itself, but then you also teach someone else. But yeah, coming to classes is really helpful. Tutorials, I think, can be also helpful. And reaching out, as you said, reaching out to upper year students. I think trying to find, if you are a person who likes using cans, finding upper year cans and comparing them to your own, seeing if you maybe miss different things, that can also be really helpful. Yeah.
Also, best thing, just because I was thinking about our discussion earlier on the reading of pages. The summer before law school, read the newspaper every day. Read something boring. This is going to train you to focus on the words and not just shut your brain off the moment something that's not interesting hits your brain. People don't read for fun anymore. Really consider doing that.
100%. I second this 1,000,000%. Because oftentimes, I would say more often than not, you're going to be doing readings in law school that you don't typically enjoy, and they're very dense and they're very long. And also, figuring out in a long document, sometimes you'll read a 30-page document and only one line is important. So figuring out how to use that information wisely, read through everything, and then understand what's important, what's not important, that can also be really helpful.
Absolutely. Now, beyond advice, would you change your path if you had to choose again?
No, I don't think I would. I think that even though this path was somewhat tumultuous and there was hiccups along the road, I don't think I would change anything, especially now that I'm here at this point. Even though there's still a long ways to go, I'm really happy with where I'm at, with the connections I've made, with the friends I've made, with the experiences I've had. And I think that even though when in those times that it felt like rejection, it felt like failure, I actually realized that it was lessons. And I learned something about myself, and I learned and these were lessons that I know, because this is going to keep coming. Rejection is going to keep happening in your life, and these are some things you have to figure out how to live with, how to adjust to it, make a new game plan, and figure it out. So I think that choosing this path led me to become a better person, to become a stronger person, and to really find out what I'm passionate about, what I'm excited about. So no. What about you, Martin?
I can't see myself doing anything else. Even for a year, I gave up on pursuing law school. I still decided to become a law clerk because even in my own clouded mind, if I couldn't become a lawyer, I still wanted to work as close as possible to a lawyer. Thankfully, I've been given the opportunity now to go beyond that and be a lawyer. And truly, there's nothing else I could be in this world. This is it.
Yeah, and I think it makes it so much sweeter when you get to that point, when you've seen struggle and you faced rejection, you faced failure. It makes getting to this point, especially for me, it makes it so much more sweet.
Absolutely. Honestly, this has just been some of the greatest experiences I've had this far, and I think there's many more to come.
Yeah, this is just a start. There's a lot more to come.
Yeah. I think that will be it for us this week. Thank you for tuning in to the Magna Carta radio show. We are your hosts,
Mustafa
and Martin. And join us again next time. We will be back. Your humble producers back on the mic. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, everyone.